All right, everybody, it is time for a heavy weapon class, and we are going to start off with the bangers of heavy weapons with rockets. Big booms for everybody out here, and I'll just let you guys know right now, there are a lot of good rockets in the game, so let's get into it. First up, we have the Hothead, an arc adaptive. This bad boy does come with the Accelerated Assault Origin trait, which does give it some merit there, but in terms of good rolls, man, you have quite the slew of good options. We have Reconstruction, Autoloading Holster, maybe Demolitionist, and Envious Arsenal in the third column, paired with Bipod, Aggregate Charge, Elemental Honing, and Bane Switch is okay, but we have Aggregate Charge and Honing in this fourth column, which are just both better than Bane Switch in most scenarios. With this weapon having access to Accelerated Assault, that does give it just another 6% damage buff, which we'll happily take on the highest damage frame of rockets in terms of just raw damage per rocket on adaptives and or aggressives. Really easy weapon to get, any Vanguard activity in the portal, and is overall just a really solid rocket launcher, and we'll be able to put in some decent work. Now hear me out. I have Ascendancy on here as kind of like an honorable mention. This is a solar precision frame with access to Reconstruction, Slideaways, and Field Prep in that third column. And we also have access to things like Bipod to pair with Field Prep for just a raw, high ammo reserves, rocket dumping machine. But you also do have access to things like Lasting Impression, which keep in mind, Lasting Impression now does a 35% damage buff, but it doesn't boost your Wolfpack round damage, so keep that in mind when using Lasting Impression rockets. It also does have Reaper's Ties if you're able to set that perk up correctly. Figured I'd at least mention this. Definitely not the best one on the list, but like I said, dude, there's just a lot of really good rockets out there. It's hard to go wrong with any of these. Next, I have the Crux Celeritas. This is a strand aggressive rocket launcher with Reconstruction, Slideaways, Clown Cartridge, maybe Air Trigger in the third column, paired with Elemental Honing, Bipod, Reaper's Ties if you can set it up, and then Aggregate Charge and Surrounded to round out that fourth column. Slideways Surrounded could be interesting. Slideways Aggregate Charge could also be interesting. You're just shooting your rocket, sliding, shooting your rocket, not having to reload it, just dumping it. And then a more traditional Reconstruction or Clown Cartridge roll with Honing. Aggregate Charge could go hard, although something worth mentioning, hear me out, maybe you go Clown Cartridge and Bipod or Air Trigger and Bipod to just dump some rockets in a fast short little window. Could be pretty calm. Next up, hear me out, I have tomorrow's answer, which is a Void High Impact from Trials. In the third column, it has, wait for it, Withering Gaze if you need to apply a debuff. I mean, like, I'm not saying it's meta, but like, I feel like there's got to be some niche situations where you could get some value out of Withering Gaze on this rocket launcher. But it also has Envious Arsenal, Reconstruction, maybe Air Trigger to round out the third column, with Bane Switch, Clown Cartridge, Reaper's Ties, and Bipod in the fourth column, with the Roar of Battle Origin trait. I feel like there's definitely some situations where you can get some value out of this rocket launcher, maybe in a solo setting where you're using rockets and you need to apply a debuff. I know we have a lot of access to debuffs in the current, today, forever sandbox, but sometimes just getting your debuff from a weapon, not the worst thing in the world. Therefore, I mention it here. Next up, we have the Micromort. I don't think it's anything special, but it's not bad, right? It's an arc precision frame rocket launcher with Reconstruction and Field Prep, Envious Assassin, and Clown Cartridge all in the third column. Rocket with Bane Switch or Bipod. Like I said, probably one of the more weaker entries on this list, but it's still not terrible. We have the When and Where, which is the Desert Perpetual rocket launcher, a stasis adaptive, if you will. This rocket does have Chill Clip, although Chill Clip and Wolfpack rounds, they don't work as they used to, at least as far as I'm aware. They used to be really good together, bro. They would all apply a stack of slowed and eventually freeze and then eventually shatter the enemy, which is really good in solo content way back in the day. Although it also does have things like Clown Cartridge, Field Prep, and a Reconstruction in the third column. You compare that with Elemental Honing, Bipod, maybe Bane Switch, Surrounded, and then Reaper's Ties is also here. Very solid rocket launcher overall. Doesn't do anything insanely great, but it's just a very well-rounded rocket launcher with a good frame for you to put out some decent damage. Next up, we have one of my personal favorite ones. We have the Haliaetus Strand High Impact Rocket Launcher. As far as I'm aware, you can decrypt these over in the tower from Zavala, but let me just go over why this rocket launcher can be very, very interesting and very good. So in the third column, you have access to things like Autoloading Holster, always good, Cluster Bombs, and then, hear me out, Blast Distributor for some very niche grenade builds. I'm thinking of like Strand Warlock and Starfire Protocol, We did a little Starfire build relatively recently, and it used this rocket launcher with blast distributor on it to boost the damage of our fusion grenades even more. Maybe also it could be useful on like Arc Titan to spam some grenades, Touch of Thunder style, maybe. But you can pair this bad boy with Bipod, Aggregate Charge, and Elemental Honing in the 4th column. And then what makes this rocket really freaking good is that it does have the Bray Legacy Origin trait. This is why I used it on the Starfire Roto with a Wither Horde Weaken Clear for a debuff and to reload your stowed weapons. The Bray Legacy Origin trait with Blast Distributor and Bipod really does allow you to crank out some extra damage and chuck some more grenades through Bray Legacy. And Bipod allows you to shoot 2 rockets before having to reload, thus allowing Weaken Clear to reload 2 rockets at a time during the Roto, which can allow for some very good total damage output. And even then on Strand, bro, you rock Cluster Bombs and Bipod, and you are absolutely ripping some good damage, especially if you have a Void Titan in your fire team, bro. You're just sending rockets like crazy. Blast Distributor can be good on Strand Warlock as well to boost the damage of your Threadlings depending on what exact type of Roto you are doing. Regardless, this rocket has a lot of value in a lot of different ways. Definitely one of my favorites in the sandbox that we now have, and a rocket I would definitely give a try if you haven't already. Now next up we have Cold Comfort, which has some pretty decent utility to it through its origin trait. It is a stasis aggressive frame. It has reconstruction, maybe chill clip, and hear me out, Vorpal weapon in the 3rd column, allowing this rocket to get some double damage rolls. You can rock Vorpal with Honing, Bait and Switch, or Aggregate Charge. If you want a double damage roll rocket launcher, you know, be my guest. But it also does have access to Bipod in the 4th column as well. If you just want a simple high magazine rocket launcher where you just M1, 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 call it a day. Also keep in mind that this rocket does have access to the Restoration Ritual Origin trait, which if you get a finisher, you will get an extra emergency rocket to shoot once your magazine count hits 0, which is always nice. You know, get an extra rocket out before having to reload. We'll happily take that. Keep in mind though, to refresh it, you'd have to get finishers during damage. So realistically, you prep Restoration Ritual before damage and just get used to that extra rocket before having to reload it. Regardless, very nice rocket, can dump and do some decent damage, and is overall pretty darn solid. Also, yeah, it's from Ghost of the Deep, unfortunately, but these days you can mark the Ghost of the Deep dungeon bosses fairly easily. Next up, I do have the Cynosure Strand Adaptive Frame Rocket Launcher, which drops from Portal Activities. It also has the Accelerated Assault Origin trait for 6% extra damage. It gets Reconstruction, Envious Arsenal, Field Prep, Bipod, Aggregate Charge, Lasting Impression, and Bait and Switch. Very simple and straightforward rocket launcher for you to really just do some simple, darn good damage, especially with that Accelerated Assault Origin trait. Very solid rocket launcher overall, and can definitely give you some decent value. Now, I have the Roar the Bear here just as a simple little mention. It's a solar high impact frame rocket launcher from Iron Banner, which being from Iron Banner, that sucks. But it does have access to auto-loading holster, reconstruction in the 3rd column, but it also has explosive light in the 3rd column. So you could rock explosive light with, I wouldn't rock it with Vorpal personally. Vorpal's only a 10% damage buff on heavy weapons, but it does have cluster bombs and Bipod and Reaper's Ties in the 4th column. So maybe explosive light and Reaper's Tie, there's a world where you can crank with that, but this is definitely one of the weaker entries here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and move on. The Pyroclastic Flow, this one's very interesting to me. Okay, it's a precision frame solar rocket launcher, which yes, they do 5% less damage than your aggressives and adaptives, or is it 10%? Precision frames do less inherent damage rocket to rocket compared to their aggressive and adaptive frame counterparts, but they have built-in tracking. This rocket launcher rolls with auto-loading holster, cluster bombs, field prep in the 3rd column, then it gets Bipod, Aggregate Charge, surrounded potentially, and Bait and Switch in the 4th column. The reason why I have this rocket launcher on here is due to the Fail Deadly Origin trait. Dealing damage grants bonus to mag size and is only removed on kill. And if you're using this rocket and damage, you're not really going to ever kill an enemy and lose your stacks of Fail Deadly, because with how rocket launchers work, since they have a 1 magazine count anyways, if I increase that magazine count by 1%, this game rounds up and it should give you 2 rockets in the mag when you reload it with even just 1 stack of Fail Deadly. I haven't played with it myself, but that is the logic that I'm looking at here with and reason as to why it's on here. So could be pretty good. Origin trait sounds really good on paper, especially for rockets, so I feel like I had to mention it. The Heretic is an aggressive rocket launcher. Freaking Heretic, I can't believe I'm mentioning this gun, dude. It has cluster bombs, Envious Arsenal with gear shift or bipod, so might not be too bad. Next up, Bellowing Giant. Yes. Black Armory. Void Adaptive with Lasting Impression in the third column. Yeah, dude. Lasting Impression, a 35% damage perk in the third column. Pair it with Cluster Bombs. Aggregate Charge, Reaper's Ties, Bipod, or Clown Cartridge. Fortune's Kin Origin trait is going to give you up to a 13% damage boost on max stacks and some extra reload speed. Honestly, this rocket sounds very, very good. I haven't got a roll of this rocket launcher yet with a double damage roll, but I'm very intrigued and trying to get my hands on one. The Folded Root. Void Aggressive Frame with Cluster Bombs. Air Trigger in the third column with Lasting Impression and Bipod. The Tenacity Origin trait on this rocket launcher is very interesting as well, because the Tenacity Origin trait grants 2 handling, 2 reload speed, and 0.5% damage with weapon kills within 15 meters of enemies, and stacks are only removed whenever you pass away. They cap out at 20 stacks, so you can store up 40 handling, 40 bonus reload speed, and 10% extra damage before a damage phase even starts. Kind of the reason why I even have this rocket launcher on here. I feel like this origin trait does sound relatively appealing. Then I have the good old tried and true Hezen's Vengeance. What more do I have to say about this rocket launcher? It's the VOG Solar Aggressive Frame, an absolute monstrous perk pool, Cluster Bomb, Envious Arsenal, Auto-Loading Holster, all in the third column. You have Bipod, Honing, Lasting Impression, and or Aggregate Charge in the fourth column with that glorious Time Lost Magazine Origin trait. Cast your super, which you're going to be doing during a damage rotation, and you're going to be putting 2 rockets into the chamber with this bad boy. You can dump this weapon's reserves very, very fast, deal some good damage. Overall, still easily one of the best rocket launchers in the game, mainly because of that Origin trait. I do briefly have the Crux Termination IV on here, an arc aggressive frame with slide shot and surrounded. Very freaking niche, but hey, could be good. Same thing with Apex Predator. It's just totally gapped nowadays by Hezen's. It's a solar adaptive from Last Wish, but it does have sideways and surrounded. But once again, this weapon is heavily gapped by Hezen's, only in some niche situations where you can actually make use of sideways and surrounded, where I feel like Apex Predator will actually be able to shine now. Regardless, that is all of the rockets that I mentioned today. Oh, what about Truth? That's an exotic. We all know how good Truth is, by the way. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the list. Do consider checking out the Twitch channel. Also, if I mentioned any rocket launcher that you may have felt like didn't need to be mentioned? Did I forget to mention one? Is there one with a good roll that I just missed? Feel free to comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be safe. I'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Adios.